right, y'all. We are back. We are back for season 4, y'all. This is the ultra black season. You know, we're gonna
Abs-
get up this season.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And starting the show off as we always do, I am David Crouch, and you are a beautiful lady.
And I am Tonice, better known as Shawan.
And this is a part of the amazing crew of shaking up the algorithms. This is what season is we in now? 4?
We are in season 4. Yes.
Season 4. A lot of shows, a lot of wisdom, a lot of nuggets. And this one is not going to be nothing short of it. We have some amazing black men on here. This is going to be mostly black men. And it's going to be very impactful. We have a lot of stuff to discuss. We're going to get everything out there in the open so a lot of people can understand how the male mind is today, and what we're thinking and how we're going about things and what needs to happen. I think, and I ain't gonna start it off too much, but I just want to say this before we start. I think that it's a lot that needs to happen regarding us. I'm gonna be transparent and say it first, and we're gonna get to the meat of the problem and try to figure out a solution. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
All right. We got some more people coming. I'm excited.
Right.
All right. So, I get the duty and the honor of introducing our guest this evening. Trust me, I'm honored to have these individuals on our platform. It just shows you all that we are doing big things over here. And with the caliber of people that we have, the caliber of men we have on here. So, ladies, just know that there are good men out there if you find them. Okay, there's some good ones out there, and we've got a select few of them on the show tonight. So, with that being said, I want to introduce our first guest. He just popped in our studio, but I wanted to introduce him because this is his first time, and he's like a rookie on the show. So I had to introduce him well. So, with that being said, like I said, this is a native of Brooklyn, and he is of Jamaican heritage, who serves as a community activist and a community builder in his hometown of South Florida. This gentleman is in his 23rd year as a journalist with the Miami Herald newspaper, and second as host of the Game Changers with Fabian Lyon Show. Some of his past guests includes Usain Bolt, Dr. Khalila Camacho Ali, who is actually the former wife of boxing icon Muhammad Ali, as well as Sharon Marley, who's the daughter of reggae icon Bob Marley, to name a few. So, he comes with some credentials, y'all. So, with that being said, let's bring up the rookie of the hour, the legendary Fabian Lyon. Welcome to our show.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sean, for that great intro. DC, what's up, man?
I am good. How about yourself?
Man, I feel like home right here, man. It's all good.
Well, I can't wait to talk to all three of y'all, but I'm really looking forward to talking to you because you are the one that kind of started this show and the idea of getting it started, because you said something in the clubhouse that struck a nerve in all of us. So we got to attack it and explore it. So I can't wait to get this conversation started.
Man.
With that being said, I've got to introduce our next guest, who is like a seasoned vet on the show. Okay. This gentleman here as well, he is all about the community. He's a certified mental wellness and empowerment coach and a community influencer. He's the visionary behind Created to Influence, which is a space that hosts fellowships for men to be empowered. And he's also a youth mentor as well as a photographer, so he's got a little skills on the side too. So with that being said, let's introduce our seasoned veteran guest, Chris Henston. Chris, come on up.
Hey, what's up, everybody? What's going on, family? What's good?
We are good. This is going to be a good time. I can't wait to talk to you, amazing people, on this
Oh
show.
my goodness, man, I love it, man. The topic got me. Listen, it gave me goosebumps. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't wait for this, man. And yeah, Fabian, I was in that exact same clubhouse. You started this, bro. And
Yeah,
listen, man, I can't wait for the fire, the thunder, and the rain to come for this, man. This is gonna be
bro.
amazing, bro.
And
No doubt, Chris.
real quick, Fabian, we all were. I mean, I think honestly, it was divine
Mhm.
because all of us were in it, and all of us were strucken by it. Like it, like really struck a nerve in all of us. As soon as we got off the clubhouse, me and Shawan was talking like about this for like hours. Like, oh my
Yeah.
God, we need to talk about this. We need to get this out. People need to hear him. He is, and the subtlety of it, was loud. You know what I'm saying? So we wanted to explore it, on a deeper level and like get to the root of the problem and see what, all the commotion is about with that. So my first question I want to start off with is about the gatekeeper analogy. I want you to explain that to the audience.
Yeah. Well, DC, thank you for that. Chris, great to meet you, my brother. And once again, it's a real pleasure and honor to be here on Shaking Up the Algorithms, man. I checked out a couple of your shows, man, and they are live with great conversation, great debate, and I hear the passion that you have for our community. DC, as far as gatekeeper, that is something that it just materialized a couple of weeks ago with me. We keep watching the news and just hearing the things that are happening to our community and within our community. And I'm always waiting for somebody to step up, somebody to say, hey, this is my people here, and we want some answers to what just happened. Okay. And I remember migrating here from Jamaica. And one of the things that really, really grabbed me were those stills of Dr. Martin Luther King, arms locked with other faith leaders, mobilizing out in the streets, those iconic black and white photos. They just really, there's something about that really just hit me and said, man, that is leadership to me. That is leadership, demanding accountability. And we always knew that even back then, Reverend Jesse Jackson, that no matter what he was doing, he would fly out to wherever something happened, okay? And he would be there and he would hold a press conference. And he was our gatekeeper. Dr. Martin Luther King was our gatekeepers back then. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm looking around in 2023, Sean and DC and Christopher, and I'm looking around and I'm saying, where are those individuals? I just don't see them anymore. And that's why I said what I said in the clubhouse room.
Do you think now there has been the Black Lives Matter movement and all these things for people dying and everybody getting together? What do you think is going to be or take for the next step for somebody to step it up and go to the point of being a gatekeeper? Because you have a lot of fear, you have a lot of the cop brutalities, all the wrongdoing in the police forces and all that thing. Do you think fear has a lot to play with it? That people not stepping up to be a gatekeeper, or what do you think it is?
Well, one thing that we do know, DC, is that leadership is a lonely walk. Okay. Mm-hmm. Leadership means you might have to cut off some folks that you believe were friends or allies. Mm-hmm. Leadership means that you're willing to say and do things that most people are not willing to do, including holding conversations, uncomfortable conversations that not all of us are ready for. And also, above all, Sean, leadership means that you got to make other people feel uncomfortable. Okay. That we're just not here to get along. I am here for my people. This has happened and I need some answers. And if you feel some sort of way, it really doesn't matter. But we need some answers right now.
I think what also helps, for people that's going to do that, and if they're once the people that are brave enough to do it, to know the laws, because a lot of things happen for a lot of people don't know and understand the laws behind protesting and being a gatekeeper, because it's more than just the fear and all of that. You got to know what you're getting yourself into. And I think a lot of people, to get to that level of a Jesse Jackson or something like that, you have to know the law. It ain't just about just getting a group of people and say, hey, we're going to do this. you can't. You have a game plan in mind. What do you think about that?
No doubt, DC, and not only a game plan, but I think, we got to look at ourselves and see what can we do better. And one of the things that comes to mind is we got to play the long game better, DC. I think at times we get distracted. There's so many fires to put out, and we're trying to put them all out. But we need to stay focused, man. We got to stay together, and so that people know that we are a united force. And if we have a weak link, it's always going to undermine our main mission.
Okay. Okay, I'm real big in
I agree, because I was gonna say, unity is the key, and I think that's the downfall with a lot of our, I guess progressive movements.
Right.
We'll start off strong, and then we kind of fizzle out. So it's when you see this happening, because it is a trend, especially even with the Black Lives Matter movement. It started off great, like you had groups of people coming together.
Yeah.
You had all of these different activists and things of that nature, and then it just fizzled out, and it only happens, or you only see it presented again when something goes wrong. Right. So the thing of it is, how, in your perspective, how do you see us finding ways to keep that unity going continuously and not fizzling out?
Right. Yeah. Well, I think we got to keep the mission, okay? And how do you do that? It's so easy to, as I say, get distracted, and you're going to have power struggles within these organizations, But if you keep saying that we are here to serve first, that keeps people on that kind of straight and narrow. Otherwise, you're going to have this infighting, who's taking orders, who's giving orders. But if you keep the mission and say, if we're not here to serve, then you don't need to be here, but we need to serve first.
Okay, Fabian, I got something to say real quick, because this is what motivated me to really be excited about talking about this topic. I'm real big in getting to the root of the problem. The root of the problem starts with family structure, infrastructure, fathers, kids, the whole family infrastructure. You have the man, the father that's not there on a regular.
Right.
The woman is there. You have women bosses. You have the whole family is just out of order, period. So I think, when I heard you talk about the men and the fathers and being fathers and all that. And when you said that, it struck a nerve, because in my situation, I never really been close to my father. I was raised by my grandfather. Right. So it's like that connect was not all the way there. I was raised old school. So my thing is, what do you think has to happen in the family infrastructure to allow men to be held more accountable for leading the family to where we don't have to go to this extreme?
Right. That's a great question, DC. And for me, by the way, I don't even know my biological father. Okay. So I was adopted and all that. So I went through the families and all that kind of stuff. But what I do know is that they are all our children. They're not just Hubert's children and Donald's children and all that stuff. They're all our children. And if we see an opportunity, whether as coaches, whether as mentors, we have to do more. What we're doing now is we're kind of living in these vacuums now, it seems like, where we're just kind of reluctant to say stuff to somebody else's children with due respect, of course. But I think with all of us men, man, all of us, Christopher, DC, myself, every man that's even watching this, look into yourself and ask yourself, man, was there a situation recently where there was a young man there and they could have used even some advice, even a good job, man. I'm glad you made it through school today. Something like that. So we all need to do more.
That would help. Now, let me play the devil's advocate a little bit. Now, nowadays, if you try to talk to somebody else's son, the mama go kill you, stab you, try to hurt you, put hands on you. She don't care about going to jail over that. So my thing is, how do you break that? How do you break the monotony of that? Because I love what you said about, hey, they're all our children. Now, that's a good way to think about it. But my thing is, how do you break down that wall to say, okay, to where everybody incorporate that mindset to go forward and know that that's going to help with that approach and that mindset?
Yeah. Well, DC, unfortunately, we can't save everybody. Okay.
Right,
But
right.
right. And so we got to really be conscientious of what situations we feel a need to maybe extend a hand. And also, it's about developing relationships. Like, you're not just going to meet somebody at the store and see something going on, and feel that you have a right to jump in. But
Correct.
if you know this person in the community, it takes time, it takes trust. That mom has to know that she can trust you. So it might not happen overnight, but if we keep planting seeds of leadership and of being a father figure, eventually it might not be all the situations, but it's going to be some situations.
Okay, Chris, what's your take on that? What's your take on that?
Man, brother David, man, that was hot right there. And Fabian is, and, he is correct. I do agree with him to a degree, man. About building relationships. That is true. But man, listen, in 2023, it's hard to be a man. It's difficult to be a man. And listen, the topic is, where are the gatekeepers?
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about that, where are the gatekeepers? I think back to, what took place in Chicago about 2 months ago, where there was an altercation between a man and a woman, and the man he ends up punching the woman in the face, and everyone on social media is hollering like, "Yo, where are the men? And where are the men at?" When it comes to being a gatekeeper, it's difficult because you have so much of today's society saying you aren't this, a man ain't this, a man ain't that, a man is a deadbeat, a man is, he we're stripping away, the gatekeeper, we're stripping away, the value of what a man brings to his community and to his family and to his society, to the school system, to whatever. We're stripping that away. So yes, relationship is important, but Sister Sean, she touched on something when she said unity is key, and we have to get back to that. We have to get back to the unity. We have to get back to, listen, we need our men.
Mm-hmm.
Our good sister Robin Young said something important. She said something that stood out to me this morning in Clubhouse. She said, I had to write it down. When you beat a person down so much, they begin to lose hope. You beat a person down so much, they begin to lose their spirit. And so that's where we're at right now, 2023, when it comes to our gatekeepers, when it comes to our men providing and protecting and looking out for our community. Yes, we do have to build those relationships, but listen, people got to take a backseat to that. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but they got to let men be men.
Sure.
They got to let men be men. And it's very simple. It's very simple. Let men be men. You got fathers out here that are doing their best when it comes to their kids and to their families. I posted something on my IG page, and it was a brother being mocked because he was on a bicycle picking up his kids from a daycare, and while he was on his bicycle, he had his little kid, had his baby in the stroller, and that was his means of transportation. But you had a community mocking him for doing what, because he ain't got a car. That's where we're at in 2023, man. We're saying that we're saying black men don't matter. We're saying one thing. We're saying black men do matter, but at the same time, we're saying black men don't matter. And so it causes this confusion where men can't come out and be ourselves. We can't come out and do what we got to do as men because we don't know which way we need to go. Don't get me wrong. There are some men some men are still going to do what they got to do as men, but it comes with a price. Before, in the 80s and the 90s and 70s or whatever, you can treat a woman with kindness, and you can treat a child with kindness and go up to them and teach them lessons and talk to them and nurture them and teach them and groom them and this type of thing. You can be a complete stranger. Our community, we were open to that type of thing, but now you can't do stuff like that. So listen, Shawan said it best. We got to get back to unity, man. We got to get back to respect towards one another. When I treat you with kindness, that don't mean you're supposed to roll your eyes at me. That don't mean you're supposed to curse me out as a man. If I come to you and I'm showing you kindness and I'm opening the door and I'm greeting you and your child at the door, I'm holding the door, at least say thank you.
Mm.
And that's what we at. Men get so disrespected when it comes to stuff like that. And so
Right.
the spirit of manhood, the spirit, don't get me wrong, it's strong, it's still here, but it's difficult being us in 2023 because the lack of respect, the lack of, courtesy towards us. The lack of appreciation is basically what I'm getting to. And so when you're not appreciated for so long, when you're getting beat down for so long, you lose that spirit. And so
Mm-hmm.
we have things that take place like what took place in Chicago at the pizza shop. Where the men at? Why aren't men standing up for this woman? Well, you said you don't need a man for the
Mm-hmm.
last 5 to 10 years. So now
Mm-hmm.
men are like, well, you don't need us. So we don't know if we're supposed to step in or not. But that's my take. Not to be too long-winded, but yeah, that's
You're
my
fine.
take on that though.
Now, this next one, I'm going to swing at my co-host, and we had this conversation on the phone, and she almost wanted to fight me, but I ain't no punk, so I'm
Mhm.
gonna say this. I told her that we need to have more men groups than women groups. Like, why are you having women's empowerment groups? And then my response was, I think a lot of women's empowerment groups are cool, but to me, it seems as if you have more of them happening because it's almost setting yourself up to, like, if the man ain't gonna beat her, I need to be strong enough if he ain't gonna beat her. That was my approach to it. And me and her kind of went back and forth about it. So my question to you, Miss Jones, is, being a woman and how things are with men, what do you think needs to change on both ends, from a woman and how they talk to men and how they approach men and how they deal with men, no matter who they are, and what do you think needs to be different in us to where you'll receive us better?
Okay. You put me in a tight spot.
I did. That's what I do.
Yes, that is what you did. But and I've said this on more than one occasion. I feel like, honestly, the issues between the Black man and the woman goes back much farther than we can fathom, beyond our generations, right? And because of that systematic mindset that has been instilled in a lot of us, it has caused us, as women and as men, to devalue each other in relationships and in our communities. I made a point, and I haven't said this publicly, but I'm going to say it.
Okay.
I'm
Go ahead.
saying it. But I had talked to you about this as far as, even if you look back at the feminist movement, okay? The feminist movement was created so that women could be empowered and get out there and do everything that a man could do, right? But that wasn't initiated by us. But it was implemented by it. We took it over.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't implemented by us. It wasn't devised by us.
Okay.
Once we took ownership, the people that created it fell back.
Mm.
They resorted back to what we were doing.
Okay.
Housewives.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So
right. My thing is, I feel like there have been certain themes along the generations that have, again, systematically made us believe one thing when really that's not for our intention or a good intent, right? So now here we are. We're in a shambles. You know what I'm saying? Our families are broken. Again, welfare created that. I'm sorry to say. I'm gonna keep it honest. I've been a welfare recipient, but I've also been a worker. So that's pretty much my tax dollars that I've gotten back. Okay. But you have some individuals now that, with that, it has taken on a whole different format. But again, that wasn't devised for us. It was devised to break our families apart. As soon as women needed help, especially us, when we needed help, we were told, hey, well, we'll help you. We'll give you food. We'll give you money, but you can't have that man in this house. If we find that man here, we're cutting off everything. You're not getting anything from us. So that was the catalyst for everything that has happened now.
Okay. Well, hold on. Fast forward up to 2023. And when you have all these women empowerment groups, do y'all empower men? Do y'all talk about how to make us better for you, or how to work together and serve each other to build each other up rather than tear each other apart?
Now, I'm going to be honest, some of them don't. Some of them don't.
You say some?
Some them don't.
Okay.
You know, some of them do. But I feel like where even with women empowerment groups where they fall short is, yes, they are so focused on building the woman, you know, and having the woman to find her identity. But they're not giving her the tools needed to be able to be the best helpmate for a male, or to be the I don't want to say a gatekeeper, but to be you know, the partner, the team player that you're going to need to be in your marriage or in your relationship. So they don't teach that. You know, we don't get that. Because honestly, a lot of these women that are conducting these empowerment groups don't have a man. So how they gonna tell you how to get one, or how to keep one, or how to maintain?
That's fact. That's fact.
Yeah.
I gotta tell this funny story to Fabian, because it kind of refers to Fabian. And I told you this on the phone. When I found out you're from Jamaica, right?
Yeah.
When I found out you were from Jamaica, I was like, oh, I can't wait to talk to him, right? And I'm gonna tell you why. When I lived in Miami for them 6 years, and I went to a church down there, I was pretty much adopted by a Jamaican family.
Right.
And they did, I saw in that house, they did something I've never seen before with my own eyes. I saw the wife literally make the food, and the husband ate something different from anybody else, made him his own dish, put it in front of him, put the napkin right here.
Oh, wow.
Kissed him and said, baby, I was like, what the heck? What? I could not believe it. So it was like, and they was like, well, what's wrong? I'm like, I have never seen that ever in life. And it's sad, but you know, it is what it is. So now I'm not saying that everybody's should just jump and do that, because I know that that's a transition. But my thing is that I feel like, you know, social media is the number one killer of them all, because you have everybody on there like ripping people apart, ostracizing people, telling them what they're not instead of telling them reinforcing what they are. So my thing is that I want to know how to change that narrative. Should I just say, hey, I love you all, black people, I love you? How do we go about that? What do you think about that, Fabian? How do we go about that?
Well, I think, DC, this is where I am with that. I think that there's so many things that need addressing right now. It can really get distracting. But I want to go back to our woman, if you don't mind, okay?
Go ahead.
We need to start listening more to our women. There's a certain bravado that we have where at times we don't give our women the allotted time they need to talk to us. Okay? I hear, I'm in some of these rooms, DC, I hear most men are talking for women. They are talking on behalf of women, but they wouldn't want a woman to talk on behalf of them. So we need to start listening to our women more. And here's another thing. This strong black woman narrative, you know, that we hear thrown around, we are a part of that problem because we feed into it. We feed into it. We need to take ownership of some stuff, DC. That's where it starts. Looking in the mirror, what can we do within ourselves first, and then we can kind of outreach. So those are key things. We need to be going to our woman and say, hey, what can I do a little bit? What can I take off your plate? What can I take off your shoulders? So you don't have a need to be this strong black woman all the time. She's not trying to be strong all the time. She just wants to be a woman.
Right.
And here I go speaking for a woman when I just said I don't like that. But anyway. You know? So,
Right.
and DC, I want to talk about our church. I don't know right now, but I want to really
Go
get
ahead.
into our church,
Go ahead.
because I think, I don't know if we need term limits, but there is a feeling, a vibe that I get, as I said, once again, once I came from Jamaica and I saw the urgency in churches, I saw them on the streets, I saw them mobilizing. I no longer see that urgency,
Mm,
and this
mm,
is this has been our safety place forever, is churches. The pastors, they're the one that when stuff happens in our families, they're the one that pays us a visit at 2 o'clock in the morning if that is necessary. And now it just seems as if some churches, I'm not saying all, but they're just kind of content to keep churching and not maybe change things up. We're in 2023, and I think we're using some old models from the 60s and 70s.
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
What's your take on that, Chris?
Man, listen, brother, you already know the month where we me and you reside in. So you listen, I hate to play the villain on tonight, but I accept that challenge. I'm gonna play the villain on tonight.
Okay.
I do feel like men do listen to women, their needs, their concerns, their wants, all
Hmm.
of that good stuff.
Hmm.
In 2023, the men aren't being heard. The men aren't being
Mm.
provided. Like, listen, we don't have those spaces where women actually view and sit down and think about, yo, what do my husband want? Because for so long, society has been conditioned to cater to what the man wants. I mean, cater to what the women wants. This
Mm-hmm.
is what the women wants. We need to provide what the women needs. We need to make sure that happens. But society doesn't do that when it comes to the man. What the man wants, what as far as like our emotional needs, our emotional stability, the love that we need, want, et cetera, we don't do that. We cater to women in the church. We cater to women in society. We cater to women in general.
Hmm.
So in today's society, we don't do that. For
Okay. Wait,
men,
wait,
we don't look out for the men when it comes to that now.
wait. Well, you know what, Chris? You know what I think that would solve that? Reciprocity.
Say that
So
again, brother.
reciprocity would settle
Mm.
that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Everybody do their part. And stop worried about, okay, well, I don't do this, you don't do this. Then if you both working together, then you're not gonna have that problem. I feel that, you treat people how you want to be treated. You do your part, but again, you go back to the family again. Were you in a family where somebody taught the male how to be a man or how to do this or respect your women? Have you been in that circumstance? Women without fathers struggle really bad. So now you create, it's another demographic right there. So it's a lot of things that factor in how that happens and how effective that is. Now, do I agree with you and Fabian? Both of y'all right. But I feel that a lot that where within that is reciprocity, and each person doing their part. And when you're in a marriage, you're supposed to serve each other anyway. Period. I was born in a family. My grandparents, they did their part. No, neither one of them felt like they was getting the short end of the stick. They did their part, and that was it, and it worked. To me, I don't think it. To me, they say, well, marriage takes work. Marriage don't take work. Marriage just takes the commitment to want it to work. To me, in my opinion, that's my opinion.
Now, you
That's
speaking facts, brother. You speaking facts as far as commitment to wanting to work. But again, we're in 2023. Those same values, that same mindset, those morals that took place back in the day with our grandparents and
that's
moms and
true.
dads and stuff, that's not taking place on today, man.
I
And
I
so
agree with you.
now a lot of
I
people are
agree.
selfish. And so that
I,
goes back to my point.
mhm.
Men are being heard. We do
I
look
agree.
out for the women, we look out for the kids, we look out for in general when it comes to community based. But
Right.
in return, community does not look out for the man. And so now you got a lot of brothers that are like disgruntled, upset, depressed,
Right.
stressed, so on and so on.
I
I
agree.
agree. In marriage, you're correct. I do apologize. When I speak from a community-based standpoint. So it's a
Got you.
broad
Got you.
view
I,
it's a broad view. When I speak from a broad view as far as all of us.
right.
That's not taking place as far as men being heard, as far as our needs, our wants, because if that was the case, society would be so much different. as far as like in the judicial system, when it comes to, politics or,
Right.
the jail system or whatever, when we go before, courts and all this other stuff, things will be heard when it comes to men, as far as like what we need and what we want when it comes in today's society. When we go forth to our wives, when we go forth to our families, we're not being heard. I'm an advocate for men. So I host safe spaces, I host meetups for brothers in general, whether they're in the West, the East, the North, and the South. Brothers talk about these types of things. They're not being heard in their household. They're not being heard in the school system. They're not
Right.
being heard in the church in general.
I would definitely agree with that. I would do. I think men are a lot more less confrontational, which does it a lot. And then it's like, they suffer in silence but being non-confrontational. So I definitely agree with that. Um, but I still feel that in a situation like this, somebody has to be the sacrificial lamb. Hey, look, this is what we're gonna do. This is what we're gonna start doing because this is what's gonna work. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes and my thing is, you know how much you love something by how much you're willing to sacrifice for it. So my thing is, at some point, a sacrifice has to be made to change the narrative, in my opinion. So what do you think about that, Tommy? What do you think about that, man?
Well, I wanted to make mention a comment that was brought up in the chat by Kalanji. And
Okay.
he said masculinity should be a man's trait and femininity should be a woman's trait.
Mm.
Cross over to the opposites, as mentioned, that's when abuse happens.
That's deep. That's
It is.
deep. Fabian, I see you looking weird. I want you to comment on that. I think you got something to say, sir.
Yeah, I do actually. I think too much is made of these gender roles myself, and here's why.
Okay.
Women now, and we could always compare, and we kind of idolize past generations like they had a better life, they had a better marriage because grandma and grandpa, they were married 30, 40 years, which you hardly see right now. But we're not telling the full story. We're just going by the numbers. But if you
Right.
talk to grandma and grandpa, you're going to hear some stuff that was going on there. But because at the time there was greater stigma to stay together, to stay married because of societal problems, because of how you're going to see them in the church and all that kind of stuff, and because women were not making that kind of money. So they felt obligated to, they felt compelled rather to stay in bad situations. That's just a straight ass fact.
Oh, that's deep.
Now women are getting these better paid positions. They're aspiring for higher education, more certification, more degrees. As a result, they got options. They got options. And that's why we look at, we're not sticking it out in marriages anymore because the divorce rate is high. But we got to take a closer look. We got to, why are people giving up on marriages more? Because you know what? Now they don't have to sit in a situation that might have been abusive. She's making her money. She can go take her kids. She can go leave somewhere, at least temporarily. So we need to, I believe, stop glamorizing previous eras because all eras have their pluses and their minuses. But once again, I think I am happy now that women are making this kind of money and that they have these options to make that decision.
Can I step in real quick, man? And
Absolutely.
listen,
Go
I'm
ahead.
gonna play the villain yet again. Now, don't get me wrong. I love my man. Listen, anybody that knows me personally know I love sisters. I love the empowerment. I heard my sister Simone was talking about feminists. I know you started out with empowering women. Nothing's wrong with that. Women should be empowered. Women should feel, a certain type of way. They should feel good about themselves. Let me put it like that. But my brother Kalundra is correct, because don't get it twisted. If a man was to act, if he was to act more feminine than masculine, it would be an issue with something. I guarantee you, if I was to act more girly, with my wife, she would take issue with that. So don't get it twisted. Kalundra was spot on correct. So that does cause chaos if there's like too much of a crossover with masculinity and femininity with men and women. That is correct. Now I laugh when not no disrespect to you, Fabian, because this is something that I ponder upon a year ago, when out of the blue, all of a sudden there's an issue with the black community and the marriages that took place back in the day. We used to glorify that. We used to admire something like that. That's the reason why most of us wanted to get married to this day. Now all of a sudden in 2022 and 2023, it's like, oh man, those marriages won nothing. They won nothing. They had their issues and this and that, and grandma just put up with all this abuse and this. Man, that's a small percentage. Those marriages back in the day were beautiful and blissful. That's the reason why most of us wanted to be married to this day. And I, excuse me for getting passionate and raising my voice, but that pisses me off when I hear the black community turn on our black marriages from back in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. And we say that they had their own struggles as far as like, oh, granddad used to cheat. He used to beat on the wife, and grandma, she used to just put up with this and that. Man, no, squash that. That's a small percentage. You mean to tell me now out of the blue in 2022, all of a sudden all those marriages didn't mean diddly squat? Man, please. Sister, chill out with all of that. That's a part of the feminist movement. You know what? Let's attack the marriages from back in the day. And so that gives us an excuse to act how we need to act on today. No, man, them marriages was beautiful. I seen it up close and personal. So we got to chill out with all that. So listen. So yes, I'm all for women empowerment. I'm glad my sisters are getting what they need to get. The issue comes when you say brothers ain't this and brothers ain't that. And for most men, and yeah, for most men, and I'm gonna just speak for the brothers that I have conversation with that I'm in my meeting. They love when their women is making money. They love when their women are doing phenomenal things in corporate America, in businesses and entrepreneurship. That's sexy. We like that. When you hear brothers talk about bring something to the table, we want that. That's dope. The issue is when you say you don't need a man no more. When you try to strip a man of his God-given right as far as like providing and protecting. And I don't mean just money. I'm talking about just our pure existence as being men. And we got to stop that as a society, both men and women. We got to chill out on that.
But you know what, Chris? Here's the thing. Now, I'm going to go with what you just said. My thing is when you have a woman making money and they doing it and they making more money than they've ever have, and then you kind of have that thing to where they don't feel like they need us. Because I feel like the more money you make, they can do whatever feel like they want to do. So it's kind of like, how do you know what I'm saying? How do you?
But see, this goes back to my point. That's when those beautiful, blissful marriages back in the day, that's where that comes in. That's where that type of teaching and nurturing comes in play. Because big mamas and mothers from back in those eras, they taught their daughters, like, listen, baby, let a man be a man. We don't do that nowadays. We piss all over men. We piss over men all day, every day. We tell them like, listen, we don't need you. You're a deadbeat. We don't need you. Ain't this. You ain't that. We do that all day, every day. So yes, some women are built that way due to social media or conditioning, whatever you want to call it. But if you was raised a certain way, no, you can make 100 times more than your husband. You're still going to respect that brother because you know what, baby, although I'm bringing in 120K a year and you're bringing in 50K a year, I respect you because you're my husband. I love you because you're my husband. And that's what's missing right there, man. The morals and the values of our community, man. And I stand on that. That's why that's why I love from the marriages back in the day because they flow like that. Go ahead, big bro.
Okay, Chris, I'm gonna throw this back at you. Now you said that you have a lot of women, piss on men, this, that, and the third. But I'm gonna go back to the root of the problem, back in the home. Like whoever these men that they're pissing on, a real man. Now I'm gonna throw myself in it. A real man, I'm not gonna allow anybody, female, I don't care who it is, tell me who I'm not and what I ain't. So that part needs to be elevated and corrected. Because my thing is, when you know who you are, you're not gonna allow people to say that. A lot of the women that say that deal with men that are weak, deal with men that don't know who they are, deal with men that struggle and all of that stuff. And when you know who you are, you're going to change that demographic by not allowing it to be said. I'm going to throw that at you, Chris.
That's true to a degree, brother. But listen, man, in today's society, we scared to hold women accountable for their actions, and we like
Okay.
to place it back on men. It's like, okay, you know what? You need to check this woman because you don't need nobody talking to you like that. And I completely agree
Mm-hmm.
that you spot on with. I 120% agree with what you just said. You
Okay.
absolutely correct. If someone stepped to you that type of way, your woman or someone you're courting or someone you're pursuing or whatever the case may be, she stepped to you that type of way. You need to nip that in the bud. Um, but this also comes back to, listen, man, women need to raise women to be women. And like you don't step to a brother like that. You don't come. If you are going to come to him in that type of way, it needs to be done in wisdom. Let me
Correct.
put it like that.
I
It
like how
needs
you
to be
said
done
that.
in wisdom,
I like how
not
you said that.
not in a way where it can like escalate. The Bible speaks about, a soft answer turns away wrath.
Right.
And listen, and to this day, although men possess wisdom because we go
Right.
through experience, but listen, man,
Right.
it seems like sisters, from the jump, from the womb,
Uh-huh.
they're just, innated with, just this divine wisdom. And I give them
Right.
that. But,
Right.
when women flow in that type of, wisdom, they know how to talk to a man a certain type of way to where they get a response from him that, just isn't like, it doesn't, set them off or anything like that.
Right. Now, when it's all said and done, we can't, as men say, we can't make them treat us right. We just can't. You know what I'm saying? We just got to be men and demand that respect. Period. So I can say, well, women don't do, because and believe me, I understand your point. You make a very valid point. You make a very good point because it happened. But my thing is that I don't want people to get caught up because even though a lot of women do that, there's a lot of women that don't. And my thing is with me, uh, uh, I can't change the mindset of how you treat me and what you're gonna say to me. All I'm gonna do is be a man and say, hey, whatever that problem is, hey, you want to talk about it or let's discuss it. A lot of women, a lot of men, we don't like hearing a lot of women like that. We don't want to hear all that. But like Fabian said, we need to listen to our women. Hey, what's the problem? Because love covers a multitude of sins. If I sit up there and be mad at what you do all the time, that's not changing it. What's going to change it is if I say, hey, I love you enough to want to listen. I love you enough to want to discuss it as a forum. Let's talk about it. I know it's
And
going
that's
to hurt, but I don't like you being that way because it's hindering you from progressing. So that's, to me, what needs to happen in order to change that demographic. What do you think about this, Shawan?
Well, I will say I kind of understand Chris's point of view as well, but
Right.
overall, it does come down to reciprocity. Like as a woman, you know, I totally get, some of the people that I've dated, I'm not going to say obscenities, but they weren't the best caliber of man, right?
Right.
So there have been times that, yeah, I've just been like, oh, well, they're not about anything. They're not much of anything. You know what I mean? But when you get to a point, like you said, when you meet a gentleman that sets the standard,
Mm.
that sets that tone, and knows who he is and walks in that and exudes that, it's a whole different ball game. You know what I mean? And I'll just give a funny story. When I first met David, that's how he was. I had never anybody like him. He came right out the bat and was like, "Look here, I'm a grown ass man. Like you're not gonna do that." And I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, wait a minute."
Right.
But he not only spoke that, but he walked in that. He exuded that. He showed that. So it's different when you have gentlemen that will go around and boast and brag and say certain things, but when they exemplify what they speak, that's when women take notice. That's when you see the change in women. Because again, not to, downplay us or anything, but a lot of women come from broken families. We don't have fathers or haven't had male role models to emulate or to learn those values from. You know what I mean?
I'm sorry. And then let me add to that, because you need to finish out that story that people need to hear. Even though I was like that and I said I was a grown ass man, which I am, I still came with open dialogue to see why you did that or why you said that to make me say that. So it opened up dialogue. So then we started talking about things like, you know what? I never looked at it like that. You know what? I never looked at it like that either. So my thing is, I did that in love. I could have been like, I'm a grown ass man, and that's what it is, and been finished with it. But I said, well, hey, this is why I feel that way. It took a long time to learn to love David. A lot of men, the reason why they're not men, because they struggle in loving themselves because they don't feel loved. I mean, let's get to the root of the problem. The only person that they feel love with, and that ain't even in every situation, is their mama. And sometimes the mama disappoints. My mother was in prison for 18 years. All I knew was the love of my grandmother. So my thing is, I had to redirect my love from the first person to the second person. That's a transition within itself. So my thing is that I had to learn and say, hey, I had to love that. I couldn't seek that outside of the bubble I was in. I had to own it in the bubble. Because if I seeked it outside of the bubble, then it's like you hustling backwards. You loving backwards, and that's not the way to do it. You're dependent on being affirmed by something else or someone else to validate you, and I'm not going to do that. But even with that, I'm going to say, hey, you know what I'm saying? I love myself enough not to allow you to speak to me like that. And when I did with you, I did it jokingly. I wasn't like, you ain't going to talk to me like that. I did it jokingly. And then after that, it kind of like broke the ice. And then we started talking and opened up dialogue, and praise God, Shaking Up the Algorithms was born that day. So my thing is, because we opened up the dialogue. A lot of people don't do that. Oh, this is how I am, and you're going to respect it. And if you don't, then it's going to be a problem. You know what I'm saying? And we all know that hurt people, period. So how do you change the demographic? I think one of y'all said it's wisdom. I think, Chris, you said that. It's wisdom. You got it. It's your approach. And everybody have an approach. They want to micromanage the approach instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to love you because it needs to happen, because all we doing is continuing the cycle of anger. Nobody's stopping the cycle. So at some point, somebody has to be the sacrificial lamb. That's why I say reciprocity. Somebody has to say, hey, you know what? I'm a perfect example. When I was married to my second wife, and my stepdaughter, my daughter, was a mess. Oh my God, we went at it. But I loved her past the finish line, even though she hated me. Did I like that as a man? Hell no, because I'm struggling still loving myself, and I got somebody struggling to love me, and I love her. It was a mess, but I kept doing it, and eventually I broke that wall down. So if you don't be the sacrificial lamb, you're going to continue the cycle. Somebody has to. Whether it's men or women, I really don't care. But as long as you do your part, I don't see it being a problem. Fabian, speak on that.
Man, that's a whole lot to digest there.
No, right?
But you know, this is what I know, is that we all have to look in the mirror and see what can we do better. I think you brought up a great point there, DC. Generational. I will never use curses. I'll say cycles, because there's no. I don't believe in all that curses stuff. But we need to look. If we don't come out of our community, if we don't seek mental health therapists and mental health professionals, that can help us, give us some guidelines, man. If not, we're just going to be pretty much passing along what grandpa did, what great grandpa did, as far as what a man looks like, as far as what a man does, raising his family or raising his children as well. So we really need to keep working on erasing the stigma that surrounds this need for mental health therapy, and even goes to our previous and past generation where it was even a bigger taboo. You know what I mean? Like they just believe in just working stuff out and not going to see a psychiatrist or anything like that. So all I know is I think we got some work to do. As far as Chris, as far as men don't have an opportunity, to speak. I'm on Clubhouse, and I see men in rooms, but I don't see the conversations there that we're having right now. And that's all I'm saying. I want to see those rooms, Chris, so I can jump in and listen. Right. And try to be a part of the solution as well. So I think, going back to the gatekeepers now, we have to be our gatekeepers. For too long, we have waited on faith leaders. We have waited on elected officials to be that guy or that woman, when in fact, we have been waiting in vain. It's time for us to take that mantle and say, we are the gatekeepers.
Okay. Oh, you know what? It's funny because I was going to segue that into this. What I was going to say, Chris and Fabian, I want you to answer the question. This question right here: how do you become a gatekeeper? How does that happen? How do you formulate that, or formulate people to feel comfortable about being a gatekeeper to change the narrative?
Chris, go first, my man.
Man, that's good right there, man. The thing that comes to mind, man, is consistency. Consistency in good manners and actions, leading your people the correct way. Not taking advantage of your people. I honestly, not to boast, but I consider myself a gatekeeper. When I first moved from Texas to the Northeast in the Boston, Massachusetts area, I still brought that quote unquote gatekeepers mentality up here. And when I think about gatekeeper, I think about someone who carries a positive influence, someone who looks out for the community, someone who shows kindness, regardless of what takes place. When I moved to the Northeast, it was a culture shock. In Texas, I could hold the door open for a woman and they would smile and they would say thank you. When I got to the Northeast, it was, not all sisters, but it was, they're going to roll their eyes and be like, I want your number, this and that. I'm like, sister, I'm engaged. I'm not after that. I'm just showing you kindness because that's how I was raised. A gatekeeper is someone who knows who they are and they continue to be who they are despite the opposition. You feel me? Right. Despite fear or despite doubt or despite what society says, coming against masculinity or coming against manhood or what it should be or what it shouldn't be. You stand on your principles and you stand on what God has said. You stand on what the goodness of what your great grandparents and your grandparents and your father has said. This is what a gatekeeper is. This is what manhood is. This is what fatherhood is. This is what you should be doing in your community as far as building your community up and making it better. Consistency. That's the only thing that comes to mind. Stand consistent in who you are and in a positive light as far as being consistent, man. Keep doing that. And that's what a gatekeeper is. Someone who doesn't waver. Yeah, someone who doesn't waver. Yeah, someone who doesn't waver when society say, listen, this is what manhood is. And for a fact, nah, that's not masculinity. That's not manhood. That's not the way I should be going. While you saying I need to go left, I'm going to go right because this is what God has said. This is what my great grandfathers has said. That's what they have instilled in me.
And stand firm on it.
Exactly. And standing firm on it. Even though you go, again, opposition. But I ain't gonna continue on that spiel right there, man. But when I think about gatekeepers and when I think about what a gatekeeper should look like and what a gatekeeper is that right there. Just being consistent in the positivity, man. And just someone said it best, and I can't get away from that unity. And I think, David, you mentioned love, if I'm not mistaken. Those two things right there, man, is key. If someone can hold down unity and love despite all hell breaking loose around them, with society and social media and all this other stuff, they can maintain love and unity within their home and within their community. That's a gatekeeper right there.
Love that. Love that. What about you, Fabian?
Well, for me, the first word that comes to mind is protection.
Mm.
Protection. If you love somebody, the first thing you do, you protect
Mm.
that person, man, before anything else. Nothing else matters to me. If we're not protecting our women, our children, what we doing here, bro? What we doing here?
Love
Okay?
it.
So to start to earn the trust of somebody, it starts with, are you willing to be there when you need to be there? Are you drawing that line in the sand? And that is, I said, once again, that's something that we've been waiting for others to do for ourselves, but that is something we can do within our own community, whether it's in our own churches, whether it's our sports league, community centers, wherever the case might be, man. We have to protect each other first. That's where it starts.
You know what? Hold on. I want you to kind of expand on that, because that's another thing I forgot that I heard you say in the clubhouse room as far as protecting, our women. That struck a nerve too when you said that in the clubhouse.
Right.
And I think a lot of women, I think there needs to be a resurgence of that mindset to be spoken to women, because a lot of women don't feel protected.
Right.
And that's one of the main things, I hear a lot of women talk about. They maybe feel love, but they don't feel protected. They don't feel safe. They don't feel comfortable to be vulnerable, you know what I'm saying? Because they don't feel protected. So what would you think that you could do or we should do to change that narrative?
Well, and I do want to ask Shawn to comment on this, because she's the lone woman here, obviously, after. I'd love to hear her point. But I think that it starts with talking to women. Once again, I only go from my experience. I will never say this is how it is. I'm going from what I hear from other women. My talk show, Game Changers, I would say 70% of my guests, maybe 65, are just happen to be women. We do a lot of women topics as such. So I am getting now insight that I didn't have just as a writer for the Miami Herald, just going covering a sporting event, So now I'm hearing it directly from somebody in front of me and telling me, and one of the constant themes, as in the clubhouse, is that we don't feel protected. We got to heed it, and we got to take more time. We got to carve out more time in our days and listen to our women. I hear a lot of men over speaking women, speaking on behalf of, as if they're on a shot clock, man. You got 30 seconds. You got to land. You got to land. Now, bro, once again, this is my experience only. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Shawn. I want to hear, do we protect y'all enough? I want to hear it.
Go ahead.
I'm telling you, it's a lonely road out here for me. But I feel like, and again, I too can only speak from my own experience, but I have met a lot of men that I would say physically can protect, but emotionally they couldn't, because they weren't in a place emotionally where they felt protected about themselves. Couldn't very well protect my emotions and my feelings and whatever. So that's been the biggest issue for me, or what I've experienced. Now, how that can change, it definitely requires that each individual, whether it's seeking therapy, whether it's just rediscovering or discovering who you really are intently, before you venture out into a relationship or marriage or anything, you gotta come whole. And I think a part of the problem is everybody's walking around with a half full cup, looking for the other person to fill. So because of that, no one is filled. So it's just of no benefit. But again, I just feel like, yes, ultimately there are some men that can emotionally, protect women, and then just some that can't. Like I said, I've had men where I've been vulnerable, I've poured my heart out, and basically it was just like me giving them ammunition to shoot me back with it.
Mm.
You know,
I want you to elaborate on that, Shawan. When you say emotionally protected, kind of elaborate on that.
To emotionally protect someone is like, say for instance, you know, how can I put this into words? When you're talking to somebody, or if you're getting to know them, or if you're trying to give them information about you. So say for instance, and I'll use you as an example, okay?
Okay.
When we, you know, were learning each other,
Mm-hmm.
there were moments of vulnerability. You know
Right.
what I mean? There were certain aspects about us that we were somewhat hesitant
Mm-hmm.
about, you know, divulging to the other, in lieu of the other person shutting us down or making us feel inferior or something of that nature. You know what I mean? Because of past experiences. We
Okay.
had experienced other people, you know, taking our weaknesses and you know, making us feel bad for it.
Gotcha.
You
Gotcha.
know, but there is strength in weakness.
Gotcha.
You know,
Gotcha.
so when you actually meet someone, male or female, that is able to have the capacity to take in what you say and to cater and hold on to your, you know, emotional well-being just as much as your physical, then that changes the game. But again, it does require communication. It requires having someone that is willing to, you know, unfold those layers of themselves, because they really want to know the inner makings of you. You know, and everybody's not willing to do that. Everybody's not willing to be transparent like that.
So in other words, you mean telling somebody something that you don't want to use against you, and you want in the trust being in that space to allow them to.
I mean, definitely, trust is the key. You know, you gotta be able to trust the person enough to be able to, you know, withhold or withstand anything that you're giving to them. I don't care if it's your money, your body, your, you know, your emotions, whatever. You got to be able to trust the person, period, in order to do that. But I'm sorry, I got a comment here. Okay, Kalanji, what you saying? Let's see this. Okay, amen, Shawan. Too many trying to fill their holes with others. Too many men and women aren't looking to be whole before engaging with others. There lies the abuse again, causing others to pull you over capacity luggage on a flight together. It's too much, unload and repack. That's what's important. And that's true. I mean, it's definitely true. You know, being whole is so important in any situation. And that goes back to what you were saying earlier. When you know who you are, you set the tone for that relationship, or you set the tone and you set the standard for how things are going to move forward. You know, and the same thing with the woman, you know, but it's about understanding what your femininity is. It's about understanding what your masculinity is.
Correct.
A lot of us don't know that.
That's deep. That's deep. Fabian and Chris said something that I'm gonna challenge these two men for, because we're gonna change the narrative, and I'm pretty, you know, I know that these men could help infiltrate that. Now, y'all said on Clubhouse, which I'm not on Clubhouse like that there's a lot of groups that don't talk about what we're talking about. So I think we need to eventually create a room that's consistent.
I was already thinking that.
That's consistent. That's gonna bring people to have a space to discuss things like this. Because my thing is, you know, I don't want to go to a lot of rooms where there's a lot of noise and people yelling about the other, or men yelling about women, women yelling about men, and nobody's getting anything done. So we need to change the narrative on that and create a space where people can discuss things that we can come to a consensus about and kind of settle. Because a lot of things are unsettled in how we think. Men and women think totally differently, of course. But how do you come to a compromise and say, hey, this is what's needed for both of us to grow? This is what's going to allow the iron to sharpen the iron. Like, we need groups like that. If that's what we need, then hey, I'll be the first one to sign up to start that. So we can figure that out, offline. So I just wanted to say that early. So, because if that's disturbing y'all, it's disturbing me. You know what I'm saying? Period. So that's how I feel about that. So, Chris, I got a question for you that I've been pondering on, through this discussion. You being a married man, and I love how you love your wife. It's a beautiful thing to watch. When y'all was on our show, it's amazing. Oh my God, I love that.
Maria, shout out to Maria in the
Right,
audience.
yeah, man. Shout out to wife.
You being a man that loves your wife, and y'all very supportive of each other. In a household where you have two people, doing two different things, very supportive of each other, how do you come to a consensus of working together to kill the demographic of people coming at each other? Because it's like y'all are, to me, in my opinion, in y'all own little bubble. It ain't a lot of y'all. You know what I'm saying? I'm just being honest. Because it's one thing to be married, but it's a one thing to enjoy being married. It's a whole nother animal. So my thing is, how do you guys succeed so well in doing that? And how and what would you say to people that are struggle in marriages that need to continue to, want to make them stronger? How do you do that?
Man, it's funny enough you said that because I actually I've been on a social media break for about a week now. And I would say surround yourself around people who are successful in where you want to go and what you're doing. Surround yourself around, marriages that are prospering, people that can pour into you and you can pour into them and vice versa. Step away from the noise. I think you mentioned that, with one of the club, man, listen, I agree with you. Some of those clubhouse rooms, it's a bunch of noise. Everybody's arguing, but it's no solutions. Surround yourself around people who can come up with solutions, man, and that can pour life into you. So for us, what works for us, man, is that we take a step back, man, and we enjoy each other. We travel, we go to the movies, we go out to dinner, we go for bike rides, things that we just enjoy each other. It's a complex situation, but at the same time, it's very simple to resolve and to prosper in. And I feel like that's just the way God made things in general. It's simple, but as humans, we make things complicated. We overcomplicate things. But man, taking a step back, don't feed into too much negativity, man. Step away from the social media. Step away from people that don't mean you no good. Whether it's family, friends, associates, co-workers, whatever the case may be. If you got somebody that's, talking down on marriages and saying this and saying that, move away from them, man. Get around some people that are prospering in marriages and prospering when it comes to their kids and community and things of that nature, man. So in a nutshell, I think I answered both of your questions. But then, yeah. So that's what I got for you as far as like, how me and my wife, how we flow, but also, those that are like seeking some kind of like outlet as far as like how their marriage or relationship can prosper. Disconnect from negativity, man. Point blank and simple, man.
I like that. It kind of goes back to kind of what Fabian said earlier. Fabian said, listen to your wife, listen to your partner. I mean, it's simple, but people make that simplicity so hard. It's simple. It's simple. Hey, I need to know how you feel. And me and Shawan can attest to this. I asked Shawan 50 million questions. I want to know what you're thinking, how you think it. I don't want no surprises. It just is what it is. Because I need to know who I'm allowing in my space. And if I allow you in this space, because and I've said this a lot, poetically speaking, I say, hey, my vulnerability is expensive. I'm not gonna let anybody just be vulnerable to anybody in my space. Because my thing is I'm creating in my space. This is ministry in my space. So if I'm allowing you in to take that velvet rope down, you gotta be an asset. You know what I'm saying? Just period. So when you demand that in your space, then you know what I'm saying, you can't go wrong. My grandmother used to always say, and I'm gonna let you say this something right after this. My grandmother used to always say, if you sprinkle love on everything you do, you can never go wrong. Simple. But go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
No, man, listen, Big Mama said the same thing to me too, man. My goodness, bro. And you know what? Funny enough, she would say that while she was like baking cookies. I think she was like sprinkling sugar or
She's in
something
a
on the
happy
joints,
place,
man.
huh? She's in a happy
Yeah, man, it was dope, man. But bro, it's man, listen, you speaking facts, man. And I gotta yeah, I gotta apologize, but I can't apologize because I speak for the hearts of men. We do have to listen to our women. You know, my pastor says that. You know, he told that was like one of the when I got married to my old lady. That's one of the first things he said to me, like, man, listen to your wife.
Listen.
I like big bro. He like big bro. I hear you, man. You absolutely correct. You're absolutely right. Listen, man, fellas, listen to your woman, man. Women have so much intuition, so much wisdom, so much love, and if they genuinely love you, and you know it,
Yeah.
you're going to listen because it's going to help you, you know, become a better husband, father, businessman, career man, whatever the case may be. But I still got to speak to the hearts of the men because I know what the fellas have said to me. Man, listen, I'm still waiting on for us to say as a collective group, listen to your husband, listen to your man. We've been listening to women, but when are we going to, on a broad scale, when are we going to get to the place listen to your man? Because we got a voice too. We have emotions and we are human as well, and we do matter. And I'm speaking to this because I had to come to that conclusion. Shawan said it best because I was the one and I'm still healing. I had to heal and learn some stuff within my marriage. I had to heal and learn some stuff as far as, even though I'm 36, I'm still healing and I'm learning from some stuff, man. But that comes from us. We have to exercise our voice. We have to exercise our right. We have to exercise our emotions, and we have to exercise who we are as a human first, not man, but as a human first. So I think society would be better. Yes, we listen to women, but it helps. It'll help when we listen to women, and when men listen to women, and when women listen to men. Everything will be so much better. We have to make that a norm. The norm is listen to women, but it ain't the norm when it says listen to men.
And you know what? I agree with that. And I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this live right now. I'm gonna admit this out loud. I mean, because this is how I feel. I honestly feel that, you know what I'm saying, whether it's wife, partner, friend, because Shawan is like my day one. She is my ride or die. And it's like, I ain't gonna lie. I honestly feel that when I'm making big decisions or whatever, you know, sometimes I will go to Shawan. Shawan, what do you think about this? Like, because she has a perspective that I don't have. I may have wisdom to certain things and discernment or whatever, but she has a wisdom and an approach to certain things that I don't incorporate in how I move. So I really honestly feel that I definitely agree with that, Chris, and I definitely agree with you, Fabian, by you saying listen to your woman, because oh my God, that is so true. That quarterback, and I don't know if y'all look at football like that, but that Eagles quarterback that was in the Super Bowl and lost, the black guy, his whole team is constructed of women. And he got one of the biggest contracts in NFL contracts for quarterbacks in history because his whole team is women. And he just knew, because men, only thing really men do is really teach you how to be strong and to listen to your wife. That's it. So, but we don't go that extra mile of discerning and looking at different things from a different perspective. You know, and sometimes I ain't got the patience. I'm still working on it to do certain things that Shawan may have. And I'll be like, Shawan, look, this is getting on my nerve. What do you think about it? How do you figure this out? I'm not too prideful to say, hey, I can't, this ain't me. This ain't my ministry. I need you to help me with this. You know what I'm saying? And women, if you just confide in women, they like feeling needed just like we do. How would you know that? Because you don't exercise that right. You don't give them responsibility. You don't give them that space to listen to them or to be heard. You know, I said this a few weeks ago, a month ago. I said, You know, God made woman. Woman is the best sequel to man ever created. It is. She is. With a few upgrades in different aspects. So my thing, is that, you know, I think listening to women is valuable, just extremely valuable. So, Shawan, don't ever think I ain't saying give you nothing. I gave you roses early. You'll be all right.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
I know you do. I know you do. So I want to say this, because I want to, you know, talk everybody's ear off, but I do honestly, you know, we're gonna figure it out, and I'm gonna come to Chris and Fabian too, individually, and figure out how we need to create a space in Clubhouse, because if y'all talking like that, something needs to change, and we can be the gatekeepers of that change. You know, that could be the start of it. And I have no problem, you know, getting up whatever the time is or whatever to make that happen. I will sacrifice that, because if it needs to change, we can change it. I ain't no punk, and I know y'all ain't either. You know, so y'all are real men, and I don't deal with anything else other than that. Fabian, I love you for your wisdom and your strength and your tenacity, and how you even planted the seed. And this is what you did. God used you to do this, because you struck a nerve in every one of us to come here for this platform. And Chris, like, your wisdom, and you and your wife is like, it's an amazing thing to watch. Like y'all are my superheroes when it comes to that. Because I mean, I know it's cliche, but you know what I'm saying? It says, you know, y'all give us hope. Hey, that still exists. You know what I'm saying? And they enjoy it. You know, it ain't just marriage for the look. It's marriage for the cause, and to, you know, y'all supposed to do something together to make changes. You know what I'm saying? Y'all supposed to be a conglomerate, you know, so of each other. So, you know, it's everybody's roses today.
Man, listen, it's I'm bad at taking compliments, man. I do appreciate it, man. But listen, you and Shawan, man, listen, to this day, we still, you know, talk about that podcast we did with y'all, man. You two
Oh
are a
God.
blessing. I'm telling you,
Right.
man. Y'all two are a blessing, man. This podcast, this setting, this movement, what y'all have going on, shaking up the algorithm, it is needed for the
Yeah.
masses, because y'all talk about real in time situations and things where people need to hear about these things, man. So
It is.
major props to all of y'all, man. People
It
like to
is.
talk about the fluffy stuff, but y'all come with the real stuff to where we can find solutions,
Right.
man. Y'all are generals, and I salute y'all, man. Props, props.
So, to you amazing men, tell the audience, how can we find y'all? Because, you know, people go want to find y'all. If I'm listening to this, I'm gonna stalk y'all. So how do they find y'all? Go ahead, Fabian, you first.
Yeah, well, you can find me on Instagram, Game Changers with Fabian Line. We're also on Twitter. We're also on YouTube and Facebook as well. So if you'd like to even be a guest, just hit me up on the IG message, and we could definitely talk. Thank you.
It's just Game Changers is all one word.
Yeah, Game Changers with Fabian Lyon. Yeah, one word.
Okay, all right.
Game
And how about you, Chris? How about you? How do we find you, sir?
His
I'm
wife
laughing
said
because I see.
find him. Look.
Ain't
Yeah.
nobody find my husband.
Uh, man, listen. I love that. That made me laugh right there, man. That's beautiful. Man, listen. Facebook, Christopher Henson. Just look for the fellow with the debonair face, created to influence. I know it's a bunch of Chris Hensons out there, man, but Christopher Henson. Look for the fellow with the handsome face, and then on IG, life coach _ Chris. You will find me there, man.
Nice.
But I doubt if anybody would want to find me, because, man, listen, I know I ruffled some feathers on tonight, but I love taking on that role, man, because I gotta speak some kind of truth, bro. I
And
gotta
see, when
do
you
it, man.
speak the truth, you can never ruffle feathers. You know, that's just conviction, you know, showing its face. You know, conviction says you don't want to deal with that truth, and it's still gonna be there when you walk away and come back. It's still gonna be there. So at some
And you know
point,
what, DC?
go ahead.
You know what, DC? If we are sitting here for over an hour and we agree on everything, we're having a fake conversation.
Exactly.
Okay?
Facts.
These are the conversations that move us forward. not when we're patting each other on the back and saying yes, yes, yes. We don't need yes people around us. We need people that's going to provoke thought. We need people that are willing to engage in these uncomfortable but necessary conversations. And we can say, you know what? Let's catch up again. Let's have another conversation and another conversation. And that is how we are gatekeepers as well.
Right. That is fact. I love that. I love how you ended it. So, my beautiful co-host.
Man.
Go ahead.
Oh, my bad. Well, man, listen, your clubhouse room coming soon, man. We about to drop that joint.
Hey, we gonna figure that thing out for real. Cause and you know, I think on Clubhouse I'm gonna be worse. Cause I ain't playing with nobody that come up in there. You gonna get this work. You gonna get this work for real. I'm being tame on here. On Clubhouse, it is unsolicited. I'm gonna talk about mamas. Don't play with me. I will rip you apart. Don't play with me. So you gonna come in there? You better come in there with a shield on. Don't play with me. So, with that being said, my beautiful, lovely co-host, host, and parting, what would you like to say to the people?
Well, I just wanted to say, first and foremost, I'm going to introduce someone that.
Okay.
Yes, he did.
Well, praise God. Well, praise God. We're going to extend this. Okay.
Better late never. But I'm
praise God.
I'm going to get him to, come in really quickly. I'm gonna do the quick bio, because you deserve the same treatment as every other guest on the show. I don't care how late or how early you're here. You are a guest on our platform, so I want to give you that utmost respect. Right. So this gentleman that I'm about to introduce, he is a native of Atlanta, Georgia. He is an author, podcaster, and advocate of domestic violence and mental health. He's the owner and CEO of Trailblazers Radio and has 9 books to his credit, with 4 he's written and 5 he's contributed as a co-author. This Georgia native believes in affecting change one word at a time and proudly sits as a board member of the Florida-based nonprofit Victory Over Violence. So with that being said, let me introduce the one and only Frederick Beatty. Welcome, sir.
She said one and only. Ooh, Lord have mercy.
Well, it's only one
Right.
It's only one.
I'm over here smiling and embarrassed at the same time. What's going on, man? Ben, like I said, I'm so sorry, man. I just wrapped up my interview.
I understand, bro. We done had a powwow on this space today, bro. I'm telling you.
So what exactly did I miss?
Oh my God, a lot.
No.
but we're just gonna get your take on it, because we heard Chris and Fabian's amazing takes on it, and I love them to life. There's 2 new brothers for life that I have that I love, that God allowed me to cross paths with. So with you, we're just gonna talk about a little bit what we talked about on the podcast, and we talked about gatekeepers. We talked about men being held accountable for being men, and being the men in their relationships and their marriages, being fathers, gatekeepers as far as keeping women safe, because we have a lot of spaces where we don't keep women safe enough. Women don't feel safe, to be vulnerable. And Shawan answered a lot of questions regarding it, and it was just, we talked about a lot of that for the most part. So I would like to know, what is your take on being a gatekeeper?
Ooh, boy. That's a lot. That encompasses a lot of things, sir.
It does, right?
Man, first you're the gatekeeper of safety and security for not only yourself, but the person that you're with, your woman.
Right.
Wow. That's a whole bunch.
It is.
But I guess I'll start somewhere that's relevant to me.
Okay.
When it came to me being in my marriage and stuff, I was the gatekeeper of making sure that she was protected, emotionally, physically, financially, And even I was a gatekeeper of the kids, making sure that they felt they were protected as well. I think sometimes when we become gatekeepers of other people,
Mm-hmm.
we're not gatekeepers of ourselves. Because we give our all and everything that we have to other people, but we don't gatekeep ourselves because we're too busy gatekeeping security, emotional security, physical security. We're gatekeeping certain things such as teaching our sons and daughters how to be proper human beings, not just men and women. So when we gatekeep all this stuff, we're too busy minding the gates of those things and making sure everybody else is protected. But who's watching us? Who's keeping our gates? Who's making sure that we're protected emotionally and physically?
Now, you know what, Frank? Let me say this real quick because we talked about this too in accordance to what you're saying. You know, we were talking about like reciprocity. You know, a lot of people, you know, are talking about what the other person is doing and what the other person is not doing and this and the third. What do you think about that? And, you know, both people playing their parts in the marriage or relationship to where it protects that, because you made a very, very good point. So in that regard, we was talking about reciprocity and how important it is just to do your part. How do you feel about that?
Oh yeah, bro, I operate on the concept of equivalent exchange. I operate on that concept. Now, y'all may not know, it took an anime series for me to understand what this meant.
Okay.
So for those who are anime heads, the anime is called Full Metal Alchemist.
Okay.
I'll live on that. I live by that concept. So in order to gain something, you have to give something up to get it. If I'm giving you my protection and stuff like that, then well, you gotta give up a little. You gotta give up some softness and some femininity for you to have that.
Right.
So, but geez, I mean, with reciprocity though, I know for me in my marriage, it was fleeting. Meaning it came and went as it came and went. And sometimes it would be, sometimes I get it, sometimes I wouldn't. But me personally, I would always be the one that's reciprocating and giving without getting anything in return.
Now we was also talking about getting the short end of the stick, right? So my thing is, with that being said,
short end of the stick.
With that being said, in a marriage, like I can, if I sit up there and I'm worried about what she didn't do rather than me doing my part, I'm not gonna do it. So now you got two people saying, okay, well, I ain't doing it because you ain't doing that. So at some point, somebody has to be the sacrificial lamb. How do you feel about that?
You know what? And I've heard guys say this all the time, and I look at them and be like, "Hell's wrong with y'all? Just because she ain't doing her woman shit, you ain't gonna do your man shit."
Facts, right?
Still do your man shit. Don't worry about if she doing her woman shit.
Exactly.
You go sit there and be like, you gonna hold you? Don't hold. You gonna hold her because she ain't doing what she's supposed to do as a woman? Keep doing what you do as a man, but hold her accountable. But it's look, I'm gonna keep doing my man stuff, regardless of whether she does her woman stuff or not.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay the course, period. Because why jump off course when I don't need to, or when I don't have to, or jump off course without provoked by something that she didn't do or the kids didn't do.
Right.
Why jump off course for that? I'm still gonna maintain the course and be straight and narrow and do what I have to do, because if I don't do what I have to do, it's a complaint.
Right.
Somebody gonna say something. It's gonna be bitching and moaning. It's gonna somebody gonna be saying, gonna be doing all this, gonna be yap in your ear talking about you ain't doing this, you ain't doing that. So why so
correct? That's correct.
I'm not worried about if she's not. I'm not worried about if she's not her square.
Right.
I'm gonna stay on my square.
Right.
And my prayer is that she stay that she's on her square.
Right.
Now if she ain't on her square, then we're gonna have a talk.
Right. Right.
We're gonna have a conversation.
So with that, are you saying that as a man, and to stay in your masculinity or whatever, but you are to love her through her development?
Yeah. because we're human beings, and we grow and we develop. So as I'm growing and I'm developing, I'm gonna safely assume that she's doing the same. Then again, it's a safe assumption because as human beings, we grow and develop, or that's the thing that we're supposed to do. We're supposed to evolve, not devolve. So as I'm evolving as a man, I'm supposed to see her evolve as a woman. Not only in emotional and not only in emotional, but also spiritual, but also psychological, but also how she treats me, how she treats her children, how she treats our children, how she treats people inside of our circle, in how she treats people inside of our collective circle, but also in her separate circle. So if it's assumed that she's supposed to develop or grow or evolve. If
and let me say this real quick. I think a lot of, because I love what you're saying, but I'm gonna add this to it. I think a lot of it has to do with inner self, because you can bring out the best in somebody.
Always.
You can, but it's all in your approach. You have to see her strengths, her weaknesses, and you got to affirm those things. You got to speak though. You got to speak life. People don't speak enough life into their partner. But people will do one thing wrong. Oh, see, I don't like you cutting your damn toenails on the bed. You done pissed me off. So that one little thing can get to this big.
And it's the little stuff.
But all the things she do is unrecognized. So my thing is, you got to in order to bring out the best in people, you gotta affirm them. Hey, I like what you're doing. Even if it's the little thing, people, and what makes it work is you make it work by you trying to do so much, to make it work. And it's just, hey, you just naturally serve the other person, and it's easy. But if you're trying to figure out what makes them happy, and you think that this can do it, instead of asking her, I'm going to Fabian said, listen to your woman. Instead of asking her, hey, what, or observing what makes her happy, then it makes it easy.
See, one thing that people don't realize about submission, that's a two-way street.
Right.
That goes both ways.
Right.
You're asking your woman to submit to you, but you're supposed to submit to your woman too. Correct. A lot of brothers, that particular part of it goes directly over their head.
Right.
Like, I'm supposed to submit to her. Yes, dude.
Right.
The hell? Why would you not want to submit to your woman?
Right.
If that's your wife. That's the person that you married. That's the person that you made a covenant.
The world made submission and turned it to a dirty ass word.
The dirtiest word in the book.
They done made submission a curse word.
The dirtiest word in the book.
Instead of what's needed in order for you both to grow. If you don't see the benefit in it, you're not going to see it as growth. It's just that simple. You got to see the benefits in what you're doing in order to, benefits and sacrifices, benefits in doing something without her asking or him asking. There's benefits in seeing if they're okay. How was their day? Something so small, people don't even do that. Yeah. But my thing is, you have to be willing to say, hey, because if she don't do it, that don't mean you don't. And I'm guilty of that in being in relationships. I'm like, oh, I ain't doing it. She ain't doing it. So why should I give a damn? She don't. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? And I had to really change that narrative in order, to change the trajectory of how the relationship is. You know what I'm saying? You got, in order to get different results, you got to do different things. It's just
you have to, because if what you do it ain't working,
right?
Yeah, you gotta do something different.
Right.
You gotta figure it out. Figure out a different strategy. Figure out a different way of approaching. And I think a lot of us as men, as black men and women, because this is, I think, where we kind of get it mixed up a little bit. Mm-hmm. Because, like you said earlier, that the word that submission is a dirty word for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. They made the most dirtiest word in the book dictionary now.
Right.
We talk about that. A lot of dudes that get rah-rah about it, and women be like, I don't want to do all that. And,
right.
and I tell folks, y'all looking at it, y'all approaching it very, very wrong.
Right. This is true.
And I think the one thing that we as Black men and women need to understand is that it's not just for him. It's not just for you as the woman and the wife. It's for him too.
That's true.
Because you're submitted to your husband, but your husband also has to submit to God, but he also has to submit to you too.
This is facts. This is facts.
Y'all talk about like, I don't want to do that, but then why be in covenant? Why be in covenant with each other, and why make a vow to God that y'all made and y'all don't want to do that? That sounds weird to me.
Okay, Fred, I'm gonna ask you another question that I asked Fabian and Christopher. And I think you kind of touched on it earlier, but I want you to kind of reiterate it and kind of elaborate on it. What makes a gatekeeper to you?
What makes a gatekeeper? That's a oof. I think you stumped me on that one, but I'll give it the best answer I can try to give it. A gatekeeper is, to me, is someone that is. Most people look at gatekeepers as someone like this third security person that doesn't want anybody to come in or go out. But to me, a gatekeeper is someone that allows entrance and exit. And what I mean by that is that when we gatekeep, when we as being gatekeep things such as emotional and physical security and things of that nature, there's an interest and there's an exit with that.
Okay.
The interest comes when the interest comes when that woman accepts that personal and that emotional security. The exit comes when she doesn't accept it anymore. So there's an interest and an exit. When a woman accepts those things, she's allowed into your gate. When she doesn't, when she no longer wants those things, then she has to make an exit out of the gate.
Okay.
And sometimes that exit is not always a peaceful one. But to me, being a gatekeeper means someone that I allow you to come in and allow you to enter and exit peacefully. You come in peacefully, you exit the same way. So if you're asking me to give you, if I'm supposed to gatekeep your safety and security, emotionally and physically, if I'm supposed to gatekeep the children, the same thing with the children, if I'm supposed to gatekeep the finances and stuff like that, then of course I'm gonna let you enter that gate peacefully. But the same way you enter that gate is the same way you go out of it.
Got it. Okay. It's a good point. All right. So my next question to you is that we discussed briefly, we discussed a lot, is in the family dynamic, we have a lot of situations where the man is not held responsible for, the man is not in a low regard, not doing his due diligence in being the father. And you have the dynamic of the women being more of the bosses and being more of the breadwinners and all that. And there's a lot of that of confusion that brings. We discussed earlier that a lot of women make a lot of money, and then I think Chris said that men feel like they're not needed because they make that income. So how do you feel about that aspect of the way the world is now, when you have women that make money or that are bosses, that are running things, that are running a family, and they feel like we're not needed? Like how do you think we can change that demographic, or how do you think that's going to pan out within the next 5 years?
Well, I think one thing we as Black men should do, and this is just my opinion, one thing I think we as Black men should do is not give a damn about what a woman makes. You can be a boss. You can be a boss. Excuse my French. You can be a boss bitch all you want. For me, that has no bearing on me as a man. I don't care about that.
Correct.
You can be a millionaire. I don't care.
Right.
I don't care about all that. I think, and I'll say some, not all. some women look at that, and some women will look at that. Some women will look at that and be like, "That's cool." He doesn't care about he doesn't care about how much I make and all that stuff. A lot of some other women would be like, that's a sticking point for them. But for me, I don't care about all that. You make your money. I'm still gonna be grinding over here.
Right.
And I think the other part of that comes with recognizing who you are as a man. They also recognizing that when you enter to that covenant with that woman, you become the head of the house, and you become the head and not the tail, irrespective of income. Your income doesn't designate who the head of household is. Now it does on taxes,
right?
But it doesn't designate head of household in that household dynamic.
Okay.
If I've said this to a couple of females that share my circle. If you're married to a man and you allow this man to come into your life and let that man lead, just let that man lead. Don't sit up here and be like, I'm still an alpha female. What? That don't exist in nobody's book. Just yours.
Right.
Let that man lead.
Right.
And whatever his leadership style is, let him lead in that leadership style. If it seems like it's not congruent to what you expected,
right,
that's cool. But still let that man lead. Let that man show you that he's a leader to you. So that way you don't have to sit up here and be like, you don't have to question that. And brothers lead. The word lead, brothers lead. And I said it with a hard D. Lead. I don't do this stuff. Don't do this point here, point there. Leadership does not involve just giving directions. Leadership involves giving advice. Leadership involves listening actively. Leadership involves communication. Leadership involves feedback from both sides. So if you're gonna be a leader of that household, dude, lead.
That touches on
what I'm the man of the house. If you say you're the man of the house and you ain't leading that house, that's a problem.
Yeah, that touches on what Fabian said about listen to your woman, and Chris said a lot of women don't let men be men. You know what I'm saying? And you just gotta let men be men. But at some point, you still got to pour into each other, speak life into each other, and you got to, and I think, and I'm gonna kind of use what Fabian said. I think a lot of relationships are so stagnant and so boring or whatever because they don't challenge each other. I'm gonna use Fabian's word. I kind of like how you said that. Because we challenge each other. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people.
I agree.
And then my thing is, how can you have an expectation and you don't challenge it? You know what I'm saying? The expectation is lost. Anybody that I choose to be with, I'm going to have an expectation because I'm going to push them and I want them to push me. But if you just say, okay, well, hey, all we gotta do is, have sex, you cook, I see you, we go to church, you know what I'm saying? That's it. The monotony, it's monotonous. It's like, why are you here? I'm not here for, I can do that outside of that. You know what I'm saying? Outside of the, being married and paying money to do it. My thing is a marriage to me is a committed ministry that you're supposed to build with. If that ain't your intent, you don't need to do it. You need to question, you question that. So I think that a lot of people don't challenge each other, not in a bad way, like, oh, you ain't doing this, you ain't doing that, because again, it's all in your approach. My thing is that if you challenge each other to be great, and you see, hey, I see you're great in this, I want you to be great, and I'm going to help you get to that greatness. Hey, babe, I want you to be great, I'm going to help you achieve that greatness. And you do that, then it's not a problem. But if you just letting marriage do this, just go do because it is what it is, then that's where the problem start happening.
I agree.
So I have a question for Fred.
What's up, brother?
What's up, brother? Is leadership given or should it be earned?
Whew.
That's nasty right there.
Leadership is earned. through being led first. It's not lead. You can't. I'm not giving anybody leadership of anything. You got to earn that, brother. You got to earn that. You got to be led first before I let you lead me to go anywhere. I need to see that you have the capability of being a leader. I need to see you being led by somebody first.
Right.
I'm not just gonna fall in line and say I'm gonna follow you. No,
Right.
I need to see that you've been taught by a capable and competent leader.
Right.
And I need to see you do that in the field. Now, the military, that's a little different because irrespective of this person a good leader or not, we have to follow. We're obligated to follow them whether they're a good leader or not. But you can see a person whether a person is a good leader or not because how they treat people.
Have you seen a dynamic where the woman is the better leader in that household, Fred?
It happened in my household, brother.
Huh?
It happened in my household.
That's a good question.
It happened in my household, bro.
I hear you.
I thought that I was the one that was leading in the correct way, in the way that I prayed and asked God about. Nope. It happened. I'm like,
I like that exchange. That's a very good question. I like that, Fabian. That's a very good question.
I love that question, man.
Because my thing is, I feel like this, baby. I love that question because I feel like, hey, if there's something I can't do, I feel like I'm not capable of doing that. Hey, I'm getting out of there. I'm getting out of that lane.
Yeah.
Hey, I got to handle my lightweight. I'm not gonna do that. I ain't gonna play with it.
Exactly, DC. And we can't just give leadership to people because we know what happens when that. When we do that, we know how it looks at the end, right, Fred?
Absolutely.
For me, I've seen so many households where grandma was the best leader. She was better than the husband. She was better than the wife. It was grandma holding things down. She was a matriarch. She was making those executive decisions that got that family over the hump over and time again. And that's why I asked that question. Grandma is the great leader.
That is so true. Oh, that's true.
That's true. So, like I said, for me, if I'm like David, if I don't know something and I ain't good at something, I'm gonna get out of there. I'm gonna let somebody else take. I'm gonna let somebody else take it because I don't know it. I don't have that much knowledge on it. So let me defer this to someone who has better knowledge of it. So that way I can learn from that person. So when that situation comes up again, I'm equipped and prepared to deal with it.
That's wisdom. That's just flat out wisdom.
Some people think that, like I said, in my military experience, we have to follow these people. We have to follow these people whether they're competent or not.
Wow, that must be tough, Fred.
Blind leading the blind, like the blind leading the blind, basically.
And sometimes we like I don't. And me personally now, because I've been out for such a long time, and I feel like this in my 4 years of being in the Navy, I've been up under competent people, competent leaders, capable leaders, and I've been up under leaders that didn't know a damn thing. And it was obvious in both instances. It was obvious from the gate. It was obvious from the gate.
That's ugly.
Oh, this dude don't know what the hell he's doing.
About to get us killed, huh?
Right.
And then you have some leaders that you see them. Right. You have some leaders you see them and like, oh, she know what she's doing. I can get behind him or her.
Right.
I'll tell y'all a small story. One of the best people that I've ever had the chance to be up under leadership of was one of my former officers, someone that I admire, that I still admire to this day. She pulled me. She was a lieutenant. She was a lieutenant at the time. She pulled me up under her wing, and we worked with each other every day for the better part of 3 years. And every day she grinded me to dog meat. I promise you, she grinded me to dog meat. But I appreciated that because she was teaching me things, how to be a better person as far as conflict avoidance and conflict resolution. She was also showing me how to be a better sailor, a better person, as far as like excuse me. being able to just honor the people, honor my leader, honor the people that are under me, and honor the people that are above me. She also showed me how to be just an all around good human being. I never would have understood that. Excuse me. I never would. She poked a lot of great points to me, but the one thing that she told me, and I will remember this until the day that God called me home. Leaders don't lead with their leaders don't lead with their mind. They lead with their mind, but they also lead with their heart. And I never understood the impact of that until I got out several years later, and I analyzed that statement, and I looked at folks that were around me, and I noticed that was true. Leaders do lead with their mind and their intellect, but they also lead with their heart, because these leaders are servants first.
Interesting. That's a good thought. That's a very good thought. And that kind of coincides with what I was talking about earlier before you came in about I felt I made a confession about, having a woman in your circle, is to me one of the best things you could ever do, because women have a perspective that we don't have. They have an intellect and a discernment that we don't have. Like I was telling the men on the panel about, Shawan. Like Shawan, I call Shawan, but hey, what do you think it is? And my thing is that I just love her perspective, and she has an answer just like that. And and my thing is like, in my opinion, it would behoove you to not have a woman in your circle in some kind of fashion.
You better.
I'm going to be honest, because it's like, they just have that thing that we don't have, and I respect it, and I respect it. I would never sit up and clown somebody and say, "Oh, that's stupid," and what the hell. I would never do that, because I know the value of their intellect and their discerning spirits. So
you better. You better have a woman in your corner in some capacity, because again, like you said, it's about perspective.
Right.
They can see something that you don't see.
Just like the officer you mentioned, woman. You know what I'm saying? She gave you some game that nobody probably could have gave it to you in the way that she gave it to you. Yeah. So it's like you definitely need that. Most men, we always talk about being strong and being this and being that, and what I'm saying, being a man, all this, but they just have a different way and approach to it that I value so much. And I just
you got to have at least somebody of the opposite sex. I promise you, because again, not only is it their perspective,
I agree.
Not only their perspective, but it's also not only it's a perspective, but it's also like they see things that you can't see. Like the officer, like the lady that was an officer to me. She saw things in my path, my career, my path that she said that she so wanted me to avoid.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I didn't avoid him and found myself in a position where I had to separate out. But the one thing that she did come at me with an "I told you so" attitude. She said, "Look, you made this mistake. Now what are you gonna do about it? Are you gonna fix it? Are you gonna correct it? What you gonna do?" And she told me that in those exact words, except the tone was a lot harsher.
Right.
And when and I think as men, we need to have that soft but harsh tone sometimes. When I say soft, I mean a woman, but we need to also have that harsh tone. I think sometimes when we as men try to console or talk to each other in a way and try to talk to each other or give each other advice, it always comes out as really, really just and play and just like played without any type of perspective or without any type of foresight or anything.
Right.
Now, if it comes from a woman, it comes from a place of foresight, comes from a place of perspective, but it's soft, but it's also harsh. So I know for me, I'm cool with soft and harsh. I ain't cool with just harsh all the time. So a lot of us as men, we come at each other so harsh all the time that there's no sensitivity. There's no sensitivity in that. There's no emotional like connection in that.
Right.
And sometimes like and I rather and this is just my personal preference. I'd rather get advice from a woman in some instances than I would a dude. And that's not saying that I don't take advice from guys. I do. Because I asked my dad all kind of crap, all kind of stuff. I asked my mom, but I also asked the same questions to my mother as well.
Yeah, and I think men, we teach each other to be hard and to be stern and be strong. And I think women, to me, in my opinion, teach us the value of being vulnerable. Because I think when you're vulnerable, you're more prone to listen when you're vulnerable. Yeah. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable. You know what I'm saying? And when you're vulnerable, that means, to me, in my opinion, when you're vulnerable and you allow yourself to be vulnerable, that means you're trusting what you're vulnerable to.
Yep.
Because I can't just be vulnerable to anybody. I'm just not gonna do it. But if I'm willing to, like, I'll give you an example. I trust you guys to be vulnerable. Even though I'm gonna say it how I feel it, no matter who it is. But my thing is, I feel like I trust everyone on this panel to allow myself to be vulnerable because I know that you have something to bring to the table to allow me to grow, to be a better man.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I trust everyone on this panel. So that's why I'm okay with being vulnerable to every one of y'all. So,
oh yeah, for sure. And you have to have that because if you don't, I mean, what man wants to walk through their whole life being rah-rah all the time?
Right.
You can't be a pit bull all the damn time. Sometimes you gotta be a poodle.
Be by yourself.
Right.
You can't be a pit bull all the time. You gotta be a poodle. Right. And I have brothers and I have friends that act like pit bulls 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, do you ever switch off?
Right.
You can't be this all the time.
Right.
Nah, man, I ain't no soft man. I ain't no weak man. So you think showing your emotions and being vulnerable to somebody is weak? Come on, dog, for real. Let's not go there. Let's not do that. Especially in the times and space that we live in now, where mental health is something that's all around us and stuff like that. And especially it's even more profound in us as men because we delete ourselves more. We delete ourselves more often than women do.
Right.
And
so great.
And I have friends that they're like this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And the one thing I told a good friend of mine tonight before I jumped on my first interview, I said, dude, you need to switch off. You can't be like that all the damn time. Because when you do that, you don't give any type of emotional leeway to anybody. Especially someone who cares about you, who loves you, and who wants the best for you. And all you gonna look at it as just some negative talk, or you gonna be like those you gonna look at it as negative talk.
Right.
So, dude, I told dude, you gotta switch off.
Right.
You can't be on all the damn time. Dude, turn that switch off and allow yourself to be vulnerable and calm the hell down. everything ain't about it. Everything doesn't require a damn response.
And teach our kids too, Fred. We got to teach our kids that too. If that's the only way that we deal with them, that they in turn is going to deal with their spouses and their children the same way.
Yeah.
We got to stop the cycle, man. We got to stop.
Bro, we do. We got to do that to
now,
ourselves. We got to teach our sons that, brother. We do. Because if not, they're going to be just like these other guys that I know that's going to be on 24/7 and not going to be able to switch off.
Right. Now, Fred, you just said something that made me think of something because I'm not going to drag this on too much longer, but I want to say this to you because I remember on Facebook you kind of said this, and I was telling Chris and Fabian about this, about, starting a group on Clubhouse about, these conversations because they don't have these conversations on Clubhouse.
Nope.
Now, you said something that I said. I can't think what it's called. I think it was like Man Cave or something that you
Man Cave conversations.
I think we need something. I think we need to hit both ends. We need to hit Clubhouse and we need to hit whatever platform that's going to be on. And we all need to come in there and discuss things like this because there's not a lot of this. And my thing is, I'm getting to the root of it. I'm not going to play around and be surfacey about it. because a lot of people do that and forget the symptoms, but they want to fix the problem, but they don't know fix the symptoms and none of that. I think in order for something to change, you got to get to the root of it, and a lot of people don't. And this right here is indicative on getting to the root of it. And Fabian and Chris and you all contributed to that and exploiting that. And it needs to be talked about more on as many platforms as we can hit it on, because you have a gazillion women platforms, and you have a minimum amount of men platforms that discuss this, and I don't know what it is that or why that is, but whenever you get that together, because I remember you tagged me in it. Yeah. We all need to be on that and talk about that, because I think this open form of conversation is good and it's needed.
Right. It's a Facebook group currently. I'll tag Aubrey. I'll tag everybody in it. I mean,
right.
I'll put questions up there. I'll put a couple of statements out there. I mean, and the funny thing about this is, I think when these types of conversations are talked about, a lot of people, especially other brothers, switch off.
Right.
Because they don't want to talk, or they don't want to hear about this. They don't want to talk about being vulnerable and all this other stuff because they think that's just for weak men. Oh, you just a weak ass dude. You want to talk about that stuff? How?
Facts.
How you gonna know if you strong if you ain't weak, bro?
Facts.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And then all this other manosphere crap. I'm so tired of that shit.
Right. But this is what we need to. This is what we need to discuss on these platforms. You know what I'm saying? So my last question to you to round this up is this question. A lot of the gist of this conversation was about gatekeepers, right?
Right.
And we were talking about how to bring that word, even that terminology, because I love how Fabian said it, to the forefront. You know what I'm saying? So we need to change the demographic of what happened. And Fabian said something that kind of sticking in my mind even right now. He said, all children are our children. Exactly. I mean, it just is what it is. But and I know that, you can't play daddy to everybody. You can't play that authoritative role to every child, because, women ain't having that. No, you ain't touching my son. You ain't have no conversation, none of that. Because, women have a fear about that because they don't know what the man capable of. So, but I think when we create more gatekeepers like ourselves, because I feel like everybody on here is a gatekeeper, when you create that, you're going to create a change. So my question to you in parting, because the last question we're going to have, is regarding the gatekeeper terminology. How do you feel that you would contribute to being a gatekeeper to change what's going on? And I kind of asked a question earlier, but I kind of want you the gist of what you feel that you could change being a gatekeeper.
Well, first of all, the word itself has had a very negative connotation attached to it.
Right.
So we have to start with that part of it. Change that to a positive connotation, and let people and let our women know that this is not something to keep you locked in. It's something you can come and go as you please, as long as you come and go in a peaceful manner. So like I said before, for me to be a gatekeeper like that, I'm allowing you to enter and leave at your leisure. At your leisure, you're not locked here.
Right.
You can come and go as you please, as long as it's peaceful.
Right.
So we have to change the context and the connotation of what that word means.
Right.
To first of all, we change what it means to us as men.
Right.
Because some dudes, not all, some dudes look at gatekeepers as being restrictive. And being a gatekeeper is not restrictive. It's restrictive in some instances, but not every instance.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to let our brothers need to know that that's not a restrictive word.
Mm-hmm.
We also have to let our women know that that's not a restrictive word, and we have to kind of reiterate and reevaluate it, not reevaluate, but reinforce that word that say we're not being restrictive to you. Mm-hmm. And we have to keep reinforcing that, so that way that garners trust.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that anybody, and I look at that, this is the one thing that I looked at when I look at that word being a gatekeeper involves trust. There has to be some form of trust given if I'm allowing you to keep my gates, or if I'm allowing you to walk into my gates. So we have to make sure that trust is earned, first of all, not just given, but earned through positive actions, through positive reinforcement, through just eliminating the fact that that word has such a negative context to it. And I'm gonna say this is kind of, I think this is probably gonna be something that I think we all can agree upon. As much as, especially for the five of us that's here, as much as we press to say that it's not a negative thing, there are several people out there that will say that it is, and we have to keep pushing that narrative forward. Not a negative thing. It's not a negative thing. It's not a negative thing. And the more people that we influence and then we change with the positive aspects of it, the positive context to it, I think a lot of people, men and women, will be able to come around and see that gatekeeper isn't a negative thing. It's a negative thing. It's a positive thing if you look at it in the right context. Too many people look at it in the wrong or negative context, because this means either I'm keeping you away from something or I'm keeping you in something, and that's not the point. That's not the case.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. So where can people find you on social media? Because
man, they can find me.
You got a lot of stuff going. Where can they find you?
They can find me everywhere, bro. I'm on Facebook at Frederick Beatty. I'm on Instagram at Mr_Beatty. I'm also on this application called AMP by Amazon. I'm at Mr. Beatty on there. I do audio shows on there. Also, I'm on Clubhouse at Mr. Beatty. Jesus. Okay. Oh my goodness. I got a podcast that we broadcast on YouTube and Facebook. Jesus. I'm an author. You guys can reach me there. I mean, I'm everywhere, but I'm everywhere, but I'm everywhere where I'm trying to be everywhere, but I know I can't be everywhere at one time. So I try to be in the places to where I know that my voice can have an impact, a positive impact. So I mean, I'm on Clubhouse, but I ain't on there a whole lot because y'all know how that is.
We talked about that earlier.
Y'all know how that. Y'all know how.
That's why we gonna fix that. We gonna handle that. Okay.
It be on some straight up toxic stuff, but I'm everywhere. But I try to be places to where I know my voice can make the most impact. And I know with Chris and Fabian, I know they try to do that. I know that they do the same thing.
Right. Okay. Well. In parting, I want to say to Fabian, Chris, and Frederick, you two are amazing men that I respect and admire. I want to thank you from the bottom of my soul for being a part of this amazing platform. You men had so much to contribute. I've learned so much listening and just soaking all of this in. I need more of this because I'm gonna be thirsty for this now. Y'all done, this is how you create a crackhead. You getting the first one free. I'm just saying. So, but I just thank y'all for like planting these seeds, for the listeners as well as myself.
Yes,
and
sir.
That's my thank you to all three of y'all. What do you have to say, Ms. Shawan?
Well, I just wanted to say again, it has been a pleasure hearing the male perspective. It's not something that is voiced very often. So I'm looking forward to y'all mail room, or if you ever want to do this again on this platform, I'll diminish myself so y'all can just run with it. I'll run the board in the background for y'all. I'll be the technical director. But, this has been really, really good and very impactful. And I feel like this needs to be done more often. So,
it is.
Yeah.
Consider you all trailblazers for real.
For sure. In parting, I want to say again, I love y'all. And Shawan, we got to do this again. Matter of fact, honestly, I always say this, especially to these three. I think this was phenomenal. We definitely need to do something with them again. I mean, for sure, because each one of them had some strong points that I love, some perspectives I never really even thought about the way they said it, and it really struck a nerve. Fabian, I'm just glad that God used you to create this platform to talk about, and from that, I love you from the bottom of my heart. So I love y'all. Y'all have a good night, and peace.
right. Good night, y'all.
Good night.
Take care.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Find us on our social media page.
Tune in for our next video. Make sure to like and subscribe. And don't forget to turn on post notifications so you won't miss out on any future episodes.